Welcome to the podcast for those that want to lead well and build better. My name is Shante. I'm your host. And today I have Dr. Brittany Connors, and she's going to talk to us about the wonderful thing called rest. What is rest, you ask me? Don't ask me because I don't know. I don't know. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it. And that's why I have Dr. Connors on here. So, Dr. Connors, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, Shantae, thank you so much for having me here today. I am super excited to talk about something that is a beloved activity for me, and I'm hoping by the end of this that can be shared. So, I'm Dr. Brittany Connors, born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. I am currently working and living and playing out of Kansas City, Missouri. And this subject is special to me because it was birthed out of my need to find rest in the midst of chaos. In the winter of 2019, my dad had multiple strokes, which, as an occupational therapist, which is my background, I've been practicing for 11 years, completely trained for, right? But as a daughter, having to see somebody that you love endure this time and then share all the information with my family. I quickly became very tired during the recovery process. And so one day, when I was at home after caring for my dad, I was like, well, what can I do? Where can I go? I can't leave. My family needs me. What is it that I can do right where I am? And so naturally at that point, I Googled and found an article about how to do a silent retreat at home. I read the article and ended up spending 8 hours on the side of my bed doing
Mhm.
nothing. And it was the best day I had in a long, long time. So, from that experience, I had this thought like, I wonder if other people could benefit from this. I know we're really familiar with silent retreats outside of our homes, but it was so, so important that I could do it right where I was. I wanted to bring that to other people. So that is my story. And that's how we got here today.
Yeah. And I went to one of your retreats during COVID, I think. It was on
Yes,
Instagram
you
or
did.
something.
Yes.
Yeah, she would have them on Instagram. I was like, oh, I'm scrolling anyway. I guess I should stop and rest instead of scrolling. And so you've been doing this for a while. And so I know
Yes.
now they've led to like in-person silent
Mm,
retreats. I saw like
mhm.
a rooftop one. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm gonna be there one
yeah.
day. So tell us more about what drew you to actually create like the home-based silent retreat because I know a lot of us, I'll talk about me. I'll just talk about me.
Yeah.
We think we have to leave like to get rest,
Mhm.
to gain capacity, but you actually help people learn how to rest in their home. So what kind of drew you to doing that?
Yeah, that is the belief that many of us hold, that we have to go away, that we almost have to either escape or go off in a corner, get ourselves together, and then rejoin. And really wanting to challenge that in a hopeful way, where instead of you feeling like you need a million other things or you need this top tier 5-star status, stay somewhere. How can you build that practice arena right at home? Because it's going to be the place where all of your responsibilities, your rhythms, your distractions, that's where all of those things live. And it's the best place to almost like dial up your abilities to
Mhm.
find rest in the places where you need it most, which is right at home. When you're on that vacation, you don't, there's so many new things. Your brain is being stimulated. You get to not answer calls from time to time if you let them pass. But at home, in the natural environment, everything goes, whether that's with your kids, your spouse, your partner, the pets, your family, everything is there. And instead of looking at that as a threat, looking at it as a playground to where like, okay, if I can do it here, I can do it anywhere, and I can show myself that it is possible. I think beyond it feeling like we have to go away, it feels inaccessible. It feels like a luxury to be able to rest, or that you have to earn your way to like do nothing. And in reality, it is a choice and a series of choices with the habits and activities that you have in your everyday life that actually lends itself really well for rest to be a great capacity building tool, and for a silent retreat to be a fun group activity. Think about it. You do everything together. You TikTok together, you shop, you eat, you hike, you bike, you run. You do all of that and more in community. And you can add rest as another one of those activities that you can do either solo or with a group.
Oh man, what is this conversation? So, just as a society,
Hmm.
in the U.S.,
Okay.
I don't feel like we honor rest enough.
Hmm.
Um, and we're always going. So
Hmm.
even as we try to rest, we don't know how unless we leave on
Right.
vacation,
Hmm.
which isn't feasible all the time because you have to come back, right?
Yeah.
So how do we build capacity to rest?
Yeah. So a few things. One, I believe it starts with reviewing your time, right? So
Mm,
if you think about like your time and like your calendar as the key to, your current kind of stage, status, even your approach to life, you will quickly see, where the things are that are important to you, maybe where there are holes where you could swap, activities, this for that. But most importantly, your time tells a story. And then two, once you see the story, which is usually like your schedule and your calendar, you want to break that down to the actual opportunities or the smallest units of rest that can be infused or inserted in what you're already doing. So instead of saying, well, I can't do a whole day, you're right. You may not in this day and time, especially with all the things you're expected to do, but you might have a 15-minute window somewhere. Can we start there? And then once you identify that time, what are the things that you want to do in that time? Rest doesn't mean completely doing nothing. And I think that's another thing that scares us because my clients have told me, okay, when I hear you say pause, I hear you saying stop everything. I got to stop doing all the things that motivate me. I got to stop doing what I love. That is worth a reframe because what I'm really saying is take a break so you can come back to doing those things that you really love and that you really enjoy. So I would say that those are the things like the first couple steps that I take people through and like understanding and
mhm,
embracing what their capacity is and not getting discouraged when it really is tough to find the time or the space, but being motivated to say, okay, how do I expand my current capacity with what I have and in a way that makes me feel good about what I'm doing.
mm. So
Mhm.
you and I were speaking earlier about on another conversation
Yes.
about capacity and some other things.
Mhm.
And I and some of my friends we're aware like we're kind of at capacity and we're changing some things. So what are some signals or signs that you've seen from people that need like more rest? Like yeah, what are like any signs that you've seen people overlook actually when they need
Oh,
more
that's a
rest?
good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the overlook part is the
Mhm.
one that holds the most surprises. So I think we overlook how much we're not doing activities we enjoy and how much we're leaning into things that are necessity only, meaning the things that bring you joy, the things that you have fun with start to look like threats or start to look like things that just aren't as important as these other things that could maybe push you forward. So I think like overlooking things that have been leisure or hobby activities. I would say the second thing is like the way you're spending time with other people, right? So if you were to ask the people around you, what does my rest look like from their POV? I think that's also the surprising way that we might not understand how we're being zoned out or we're being tunnel visioned in.
Mhm.
And then I think one of the ones that breaks my heart is like realizing the lack of empathy that comes from being so busy. Like you start to be irritated with your husband or your wife, right? When they're really having a time and they need somebody, you have nothing for them. Right, or
Mhm.
you're oversimplifying, and especially us in the business world, right, where we're constantly solving problems, we're constantly having to think through things. You might adopt this mindset that everybody is thinking and moving or should think and move just like you. And that is surprisingly very harmful to the relationships and environments around us because of what's driving us, our impulses and our desires, and not realizing how they are impacting those in our orbit. And what they need is also very important. And we miss that. That's another sign that I've started to see lately, like the impact on other people in the person's life.
I never even thought about that. So
Yeah.
what you could do, like you said, is ask the people close to you.
Hmm.
How am I looking?
How am I
Am I looking
looking?
like I'm running on empty? Like, that whole conversation. And
Yeah.
just getting feedback from them because I know a lot of us, especially those of us that own businesses,
Hmm.
and depending on, I mean, anytime you own a business, it's just a lot of work.
It is.
I mean, it could feel like 24-hour days sometimes. And
Hmm.
then add on top of that, like a family, a
Hmm.
pet,
Hmm.
just life, it can be a whole lot. So I like that you said, kind of have that relationship with others where they can come to you and be like, okay, Shante, you need to rest, right?
Yes,
You need to
yes. Or
rest.
I'm noticing that these things are
Mhm.
happening or not happening because you're not rested or
Mhm.
you're not resting. So I would say maybe some questions like, have I been present? Or how have I been listening lately? Are also like great questions to like really get the truth about how you've been showing up or maybe not showing up
Mm.
because you haven't been in a restful state or haven't had that window of opportunity to block, protect, and use the time that you've been setting aside for rest. Because if you're not careful, you will eat through that lunch, you will work through that block.
Mhm.
And so I would say, like, coming back to the others in your life, whether that is family, coworkers, anyone else, um, making sure that there's this understanding that, like, okay, when I do veer, I do want somebody to pull me in because if not, I'm not going to notice. I'm genuinely not going to notice.
Mm. Yeah, and I think it's on us to listen, right?
Yeah.
And not be like, I hear you, but I'm busy, right? Because that's the whole.
Or becoming defensive, like,
Mhm.
this is why you want, we have to eat, we have to have this home, we have to have this life. Take that step back, literally take a deep breath and listen to what that person is trying to tell you because they are giving you exactly what they see, and that's even hard to do in the first place. But take that moment to trust what they see in you because they care about you, because they know you, or they at least like understand your rhythms and they're seeing that there's something different than what your baseline has been.
Mm. So I'm
Mm,
thinking, we're doing self-care a lot of self-care.
mm,
And I'm wondering how we're framing rest in that self-care,
mm,
right?
mm,
I see pauses, I see go on vacation, I see
mhm.
get a massage, I see get a facial,
Uh-huh.
I see get like a scalp massage, I see like sip some wine and watch Netflix. But I really
Mhm,
don't hear about when we're talking about like self-care,
mhm.
resting. And to me, that is something that should be high up there on like our self-care list.
Yeah, I believe that it should be. I wholeheartedly agree with you. One
Mhm.
thing that I'm learning is that the other things that you mentioned are activities, like things people can do.
Mhm. Mhm.
We don't exactly see rest as an activity, as something we can do. And so I believe that with more education and modeling, most important, like visually being able to learn from each other, the stories that we tell about our struggles with rest, our successes, or just our practice. That's my best, like, championing word. Our practice with rest, that ultimately lends to, oh, this is something I can do. This is
Mhm.
something I can schedule. This is something I can improve. And this is something I can do with other people that will enable a better quality of life so that all my self-care activities are actually getting the chance to do what they need to do, which is help me relax, help me stay calm, help me respond differently in times of stress and chaos,
Mhm.
not just these one-off things that I'm hoping will make a dent in a much bigger issue when there's no room for it to marinate. Rest is
Mm.
that capacity builder, that space maker. Um, and without it, I do fear that it does just become another thing to do. But when you add rest and you incorporate this into your everyday schedule, your weekly, or even your monthly schedule, it then becomes a habit. It then becomes a routine, and it then becomes a system for you to reorganize yourself as a founder, as a leader, as a person who wants to and needs to show up for so many people. And that's the way we do it. taking that rest time alone so that when we do come together, I'm better for you. I'm better for us. I'm my best self. And I'm showing people that it is okay to incorporate this so that we all can feel good instead of just one of us or some of us. That's how it really gets to this community level of collective care that doesn't take much, but it does take us being honest about what we need and how it needs to be done.
Yeah, I was in a meeting today with some founders, and they all have teams. They're in the weeds, of course, as
Yeah.
founders are sometimes.
Yeah.
But the surprising thing is they don't rest, right? Because, like you said, that's not something they carve out in their schedule to
Mhm.
do because they're
Mhm.
running the business. So I like that you're talking about like actually carving out rest.
Mhm.
And I kind of think of stuff like as a strategy or a plan.
Yeah.
So how, especially for founders, how could they create a strategy to rest or a resting strategy?
Yes, I believe that they can create strategies by taking the time to assess how they're feeling. You said they're running so many other things. Are you actually giving that care to yourself and like what you need to function? We talk about operations in business. How are you operating as a human and a
Mhm.
person? And again, giving yourself grace in that space, not to blame yourself or be hard on yourself, but to really look at, am I enjoying my life right now? Doing what I'm doing in the season. I know it may be hard and it may even be temporary, which I think is another thing that founders struggle with. Like, if it's not hard, am I even doing it? I
Mhm.
would say the second thing would be welcoming simplicity in the ways that make sense. So simplicity is tricky because when it's done well, it doesn't seem like you're doing much. And actually, we become very suspicious of things that
Mhm.
might seem like, oh, that's obvious, or that's something that I should know how to do. But it's a sophisticated process of bringing something down to the essence and the elements of what it is. And that takes a lot of skill. So I would say to these founders, when you're building your strategy, how do I make it simple? Right?
Mhm.
I don't need to go and buy more products, or I don't need to have more of things. How do I actually like help myself have less and do less and feel comfortable with doing less, knowing that it's still enough? And then
Mhm.
the third thing I would say is get an accountability partner. So whether that's other founders, if you are in a community like this one, which is so beautiful, talking to other people, talking to a professional like me, get a sense of, hey, this is what I want to do every Wednesday morning from 8 to 10. I need you to call or text me to see, am I doing it, or have I encroached on my own boundary by working through this? And talk with me if you have a second. I think that just that cheerleading and that support and ultimately that accountability can also be a huge help in creating a strategy. And four, have fun. Don't do it in a way that feels like you're punishing yourself. This is not what it's about. You don't have to choose between achievement and your rest. Get creative, get curious about how you can do both. Like, if I do take this time off, I'm going to reward myself with my favorite show or my favorite meal or a walk with my family. Make it something you can look forward to and something instead of something you can dread, so that it can like light up those dopamine and reward centers in the same way that they light up when you accomplish that goal.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And as you were talking, I was thinking, not just the founders, but their team, right?
Oh, come on, bring it.
They could use rest, right? Because they're working for this founder that's in the weeds, and the
Oh,
founder's overwhelmed. So that feeling, that aura, that vibe of overwhelmedness, is going throughout the organization. So also, as the
mhm,
founders on this journey,
mhm.
in operations, I always say it's about your people. Your people are first, and
Yes.
everything else flows. So
Mhm,
as the founders on their journey, they can also help like their team like learn a
mhm.
rest strategy. Of course, they can call you to come in and do that as
Of
well.
course.
So we're gonna get your information later. Um, but just kind of prioritizing like rest as a way to take care of yourself. And then in the business, of course, we can rest, and that's gonna make us more efficient. right? That's gonna not make us like look at mistakes. I mean, make us have a lot of mistakes or be
Mhm.
exhausted, and have that focus that we have. So I like
Yeah.
that you were talking about the rest.
Yeah, and I like how you brought us to number 5. It is absolutely doing it with the team and
Mhm.
encouraging the team culture for this to be a part of who we are and what we do and how we do the work. How do we put it in our processes? There are more and more teams that are incorporating, like, okay, once a quarter, we have a whole week off, or, we are mandating time off, whatever it is, and whatever creative solutions, they have to be done with the team, because research shows that if leaders aren't taking breaks, no one else will, because it
Mhm.
definitely trickles down. We feel more comfortable when we see the models, which means that we have to be talking to our team. We have to be asking about how that vacation went or how that time off went, and praising, hey, I noticed you're back from your time off. Welcome back. We're so happy that you took time to take care of yourself, to take care of your family. Welcome back. We're excited to have you back. So that team element and growing and practicing that together is also like such a level that I would love to see more leaders embrace and lead. And then we can take notice of that and celebrate each other's wins, because celebration is also disruption. We're so focused on disrupting fields. How do we disrupt these things in our lives that can be reworked? New pictures, new understandings of success, and like what it means to be a powerhouse, and also know the power of rest, know the power of things like silence, to just fuel all of the things that we want to do. We can absolutely do that together.
I love the power of rest. I don't know. So y'all know I'm like comic book sci-fi. So when you said power of rest, I thought of some superhero. I don't know what they doing. I don't know if they like flying and they touch you and they make you like rest. I don't
Ooh,
know, but the power of rest,
ooh,
like if that was a superpower, like what would we do with that? Like for real?
ooh.
Oh my
Do
gosh.
you
Anyway, so
know?
that's a whole different situation.
Now you got my mind going, because
I
I'm
know,
already
right?
seeing
I
it.
know,
I'm
right?
already seeing it.
But the power of rest, we talk about the power of so many other things, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And I think I know we overlook it. I was in Costa Rica for almost a month, like 3.5 weeks, and they rest and they just have a different
Mm.
laid back lifestyle, and um, it's just different than here in the States where we're always like go 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 go.
Yeah.
But I like that you talk about the power of rest, and I think a lot of us need to, especially when things get difficult, like
Mm.
learn like it's difficult, but maybe you also need to rest on top of that.
Yeah, it's difficult, and maybe what we need is something that can expand our capacity to meet this moment, because we
Mhm.
all know, as founders, like, some of those times are your best moments. Your best ideas come out of difficult times. Your best approaches will come out of something failing, and failing at such a point that you're not even sure when it can come back. And so to be able to have the wherewithal to say, I've tried all these other things, maybe there's one thing that I haven't tried that is worth a shot, that is worth a go, to say, well, what are the benefits? Because there are many. Once you start to practice and give it some thought, give it a try, you will be surprised. You will be in awe of what that time in silence can do for you, your thoughts. Things will surface, dots will connect. There will be less of a disconnect between you and your true values or your company's values.
Mhm.
But none of that can come to you unless you find a moment of silence. Like, I really love, I heard a founder story not too long ago. Actually, it was Sheila Johnson, former CEO of BET, and she was saying how she went so far and accomplished all these amazing things, but reached a point where she had to take 2 years off. And at first, she was fighting it, fighting it, fighting it. But the more she did it, the more it felt natural. And I think that's the other thing that I really want our listeners to get. Like, when you fight against rest, you're fighting against something that is so natural and inherent to us as a human activity, that's why you're feeling tension, because your body and your being is telling you, hey, we need this, and we're not exactly like trusting that message. So trust yourself, build your self trust, Get people around you who can affirm that, and get in your practice arena, get in your mode. Start with 2 minutes of silence, build your way up. Instead of listening to your favorite song or podcast, which I know we're on and we do want you to listen, but maybe just for one of those car rides or one of those working sessions, don't turn on anything. Let it just be you, and spend some quality time with yourself in that silence, and just see, even in 2 minutes, what that can feel like and what that can do for you.
Okay, good, good. Well, I was going to ask you for a practical tip
Yeah.
to keep us with today, but I feel like that 2 minutes was it. But I feel like you probably have another practical tip. So, are
Oh,
there any practical tips for us that we can actually like implement today?
absolutely. One thing you can implement today is identifying a window of time or a window of rest that you want to commit to today. That's it. So it doesn't have to be a certain time. It doesn't have to be a certain day. But if you're thinking about, okay, usually on Tuesdays or on Thursdays or Sundays, whatever the day is, pick your day, zoom in on a time, and take that time this week. That is what you can decide that today. You can start practicing that this week.
Mm. Now, I'm gonna ask this other question because it had me thinking.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, so in the morning, I pray and read my Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Is that rest?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. And thank you for asking, because the
Mhm,
range of activities, they're endless. Here's a
mhm.
quick definition. Rest as an activity is defined as something that is personal, that is quiet and effortless, that can be done solo or with a group. And lastly, it supports all the other things in your life. If it hits those four things, it is rest for you. And Shantae, we might not have the same restful activities, but if you can go through that checklist and it's that for you, that is one of your restful activities, and keep adding to that rest bank.
Oh, I love that you said that because I was thinking rest is like I just gotta sit in this chair, like quiet and look at the tree.
It can
Um,
be, but that's
it
not the
could
only way.
be, it could be, but then
It could be.
again, it may not be for me.
Right, right. Or it
Um,
may not be for you,
right,
right?
for me, right. It could be for someone else.
Yes.
So I'm happy you gave us that definition of
Hmm.
what rest actually is.
Hmm.
So this has been great. So, Dr. Connors, are there any upcoming events or anything you want to let the listeners know about?
Yes, indeed I do. So I would say my next upcoming event is a silent retreat at your house or your short-term rental, your lake house, the office. I am starting to get a ton of calls about end of year. So people wanting to end the year on a good note slash begin for 2026. Also getting calls about silent retreats and silent strategy sessions for the holidays, because we know that it can be a
Mhm.
pretty hectic, pretty busy, pretty high stakes time. So please connect with me. I would love to do a silent retreat with you and your team, you and your family, you and your friends. That's definitely my next upcoming event, a silent retreat with you.
All right. When you said me, I was like, oh, did we already book
You
it?
too. You too. Come
Let me get
on.
this
We
book.
can schedule right now.
We'll
I
wait
love
till the
that you felt
podcast is
that.
over. We'll get that in. And so, for everyone who wants to stay in contact with you and keep up with what you're doing, how do we stay in touch with you?
Yeah, so please stay in contact with me. The best way to do that right now is via LinkedIn. So I'm Dr. Brittany Connors there. You can also connect with me via email at info@optimistictheory.com. And then on my website at www.optimistictheory.com. I have a Calendly link if you'd like to schedule a 15-minute call. We can get it going, but that's how you can follow my journey. I'm not on social media right now because I'm enjoying my rest in the digital realm, but those are the places where you can catch me.
Of course, you would not be there because that only makes sense. That only makes sense. You got to live, you got to practice what you preach. So
Yes, and I'm such in a practice mode right now.
I love it. Well, everyone, thank you for listening to Lead Well, Build Better. Remember to subscribe on Apple or Spotify to catch up with our next episode. Until then, see you later.